The Cathar, a species of aquatic humanoids, were renowned throughout the galaxies, not for conquest, but for their meticulous record-keeping. Imagine creatures resembling sophisticated militaristic dolphins, but with an unyielding dedication to historical accuracy. Their civilization was built on the principle that the past was not just a guide, but a sacred text to be preserved, unaltered, and revered. Their society was structured like a perfectly synchronized school of fish, each Cathar knowing their place, their duty, and their historical lineage. Every barnacle scraped from a hull, every coral reef surveyed, every kelp frond harvested was documented, cross-referenced, and archived in their vast underwater archives. Their obsession bordered on religious fervor, with designated chronomasters ensuring every fact, figure, and footnote was unimpeachably correct. Then came Rex, Captain Rex Nebula to be precise. He arrived in a battered escape pod, reeking faintly of stale pizza and desperation. His ship, the Rusty Bucket, had suffered a minor navigational malfunction, resulting in an unscheduled detour through Cathar space. Rex stumbled out of the pod, blinking in the filtered aquamarine light of the Cathar welcoming station. He scratched his head, adjusted his slightly too tight uniform, and surveyed the scene with a mixture of bewilderment and thinly veiled amusement. "Well, ain't this a thing?" he mumbled, clearly not expecting a reception committee composed of heavily armed bioluminescent fishfolk. He was, to put it mildly, unprepared for the sheer, unadulterated order of it all. Rex's first interaction with the Cathar was, predictably, a disaster. Upon being escorted to what he assumed was a waiting lounge, Rex promptly plopped down on what was, in fact, a meticulously arranged display of historical artifacts. He yawned, stretched, and remarked, "Comfy, though a fella could use a decent sports channel around here." The chronomasters present nearly had a collective heart attack. This lounge was the Hall of Epochs, a sacred space dedicated to the most pivotal moments in Cathar history. The artifact Rex was lounging on was a perfectly preserved coral throne used by the first Cathar monarch. Undeterred, Rex, while waiting for his ship to be repaired, decided to explore the Cathar base. Spotting a room filled with blinking lights and complex consoles, he wandered in, humming a jaunty tune. It was the Cathar's central military command, and Rex, mistaking a highly sensitive sonar array for a fancy massage chair, began fiddling with the controls. "Now let's see if we can get this thing to vibrate," he muttered, blissfully ignorant of the chaos he was about to unleash. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and the Cathar military went into full-blown panic mode as their sonar system started broadcasting a series of polka tunes across their underwater civilization. Rex, meanwhile, was thoroughly enjoying his impromptu back massage. The Cathar were utterly baffled. This human seemed incapable of grasping the simplest concepts of protocol, respect, or even basic self-preservation. His actions were illogical, unpredictable, and deeply unsettling to their orderly minds. Was this ignorance or a deliberate act of defiance? The question weighed heavily on the chronomasters, who were beginning to suspect that Captain Rex Nebula was not as clueless as he appeared. At the heart of the Cathar civilization lay the Chronarium. It was a colossal structure, a testament to their unwavering dedication to historical accuracy. Picture a vast, shimmering coral reef, pulsating with bioluminescent energy, interwoven with intricate networks of data conduits. This was no mere archive. It was the living memory of the Cathar. Within the Chronarium, every moment of their history was meticulously recorded. From the first emergence of their species from the ocean depths to their most recent interstellar conquests, every event, every decision, every ripple in the currents of time was captured and preserved with unwavering precision. This data was not merely stored, but actively simulated. The Cathar could relive any moment in their past, experiencing it as if they were truly there, ensuring absolute fidelity to the truth. To tamper with the Chronarium was unthinkable, a sacrilege of the highest order. The Cathar believed that their identity, Their very existence was inextricably linked to the accuracy of their historical records. To alter the past was to unravel the fabric of their society, to erase their achievements, and to condemn their future to chaos. The consequences were not merely historical. They were existential. Guards constantly patrolled the Chronarium's perimeter, their multifaceted eyes scanning for any sign of intrusion. Complex energy fields shielded the structure from unauthorized access. The most skilled chronomasters oversaw the delicate operations, ensuring the integrity of the historical data. It was the most secure, the most revered, the most vital institution in the Cathar Empire. Any disruption, any alteration, no matter how small, could have devastating consequences. A single corrupted data point could cascade through their historical narrative, creating paradoxes and anomalies that would undermine the very foundation of their civilization. The Cathar understood this implicitly, and they guarded the Chronarium with a vigilance bordering on religious fervor. Rex, meanwhile, was acting like he just found the galaxy's biggest hard drive. He spent hours wandering around the Chronarium, whistling show tunes and poking at the shimmering coral structures. It wasn't long before his casual curiosity started to grate on Commander Krill, the Cathar in charge of the facility. "Captain Nebula," Krill stated, his voice a low rumble in the water. "Your enthusiasm is noted. However, these historical simulations are delicate. Please refrain from touching anything." Rex, mid-whistle, turned with a grin. "Delicate? Looks pretty sturdy to me. So this thing basically records everything, huh? Like a giant, underwater, TiVo?" He snapped his fingers, clearly pleased with the analogy. Krill's eyes narrowed. "TiVo? I'm unfamiliar with this human term. The Chronarium is a repository of truth, not entertainment." He gestured to a nearby chronomaster who was now visibly sweating and continued, "Perhaps you would be more comfortable in your quarters." But Rex was already sidling up to a control panel, his fingers dancing over the unfamiliar symbols. "Nah, I'm good. Just trying to understand how this whole shebang works, so can you, fast forward, rewind, check out deleted scenes?" He chuckled, completely missing Krill's mounting frustration. "Captain Nebula!" Krill's voice boomed through the chamber. "This is not a toy. The Chronarium is the bedrock of our civilization. Your inquiries are becoming disruptive." He signaled two guards, who moved to flank Rex. Rex, oblivious, pointed at a swirling vortex of energy. "Whoa, what's that? Some kind of director's cut? Can we watch the bloopers?" The guards exchanged nervous glances. This human's ignorance was either genuine or an act of profound disrespect. Either way, it was deeply unsettling. "Captain Nebula," Krill repeated, his voice dangerously calm, "I must insist that you cease your investigation. Some things are best left undisturbed." As Rex continued to prod and question, the alarms in Krill's mind grew louder. This human was either incredibly naive or dangerously interested, and neither option boded well for the Chronarium. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, a faint ripple in the otherwise flawless historical narratives. One moment, the great Cathar general was leading his troops to victory. The next he would moonwalking. The chronomaster monitoring the battle simulation blinked, then blinked again. Had the general always punctuated his battle cries with a high-pitched hee-hee? Surely this was a malfunction. He recalibrated the system, ran diagnostics, and even smacked the console a few times, but the moonwalking general persisted. Then came the great kelp shortage of 3457. Normally a tale of hardship and resilience, it now featured the Cathar elders engaging in a synchronized dance routine to a catchy jingle about processed kelp snacks. The chronomasters watched in horror as their proud history was slowly replaced with what could only be described as human advertisements. Commander Krill, alerted to the escalating anomalies, rushed to the central monitoring station. The scene before him was one of utter chaos. Alarms blared, chronomasters wailed, and the historical simulations were, well, they were having a rave. Ancient Cathar philosophers were breakdancing, venerable admirals were beatboxing, and the entire Cathar navy was engaged in a massive underwater conga line. What in the abyss is going on here? Krill roared, his voice barely audible above the cacophony of distorted historical events. A trembling chronomaster pointed a shaky tentacle toward a corner of the room. There, amidst the swirling chaos, stood Captain Rex Nebula, humming along to the bizarre soundtrack, casually adjusting a dial on the Chronarium's main console. "Oh, hey, Krill," Rex said, looking up with a sheepish grin. "Didn't see you there. Just, tweaking a few things. This interface is a little clunky, you know. I figured I'd streamline the user experience a bit." He gestured to the console, which was now displaying a series of rapidly changing images. Cats playing pianos, babies dancing, and what appeared to be a commercial for discounted dental floss. Krill stared at the screen, his mandibles agape. What have you done? You've corrupted the Chronarium, our history!" One of the chronomasters shrieked, his tentacles quivering with indignation. "You have brought shame upon our ancestors." Krill stepped forward, his voice dangerously low. "Human, we have been more than patient with your eccentricities. But this is an act of aggression, a deliberate attempt to undermine our culture, our very identity." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "Are you a saboteur, a spy sent by our enemies to sow discord and chaos?" Rex threw his hands up in mock surrender. "Whoa, hold on a second. Saboteur? Spy? Me? Come on, guys, I'm just a simple spacefarer. I wouldn't know the first thing about undermining a culture, let alone, what was it? Sowing discord. Sounds like a gardening term to me." His attempts at levity, however, fell flat. The Cathar were not known for their sense of humor, especially when it came to matters of historical significance. The tension in the room was thicker than a bowl of kelp stew. "Then explain this," Krill roared, pointing to a simulation showing the great founding fathers of the Cathar nation engaged in a synchronized karaoke rendition of a human pop song. "Explain why our most revered leaders are now singing about baby sharks?" Rex scratched his head, feigning confusion. "Baby sharks? Never heard of them. Maybe it's a local thing? You know, regional variations in historical accuracy? Happens. All the time." He offered a weak smile, hoping to diffuse the situation, but it was clear that he was only making things worse. The Cathar were closing in, their bioluminescent markings glowing with barely restrained fury. Rex, realizing that his attempts at humor were failing miserably, decided to try a different approach. "Look, guys," he said, his voice suddenly serious. "I can explain everything. I just need a little time." But it was too late. The Cathar had reached their breaking point. Accusations turned into threats, and the room erupted into a cacophony of angry clicks, growls, and the faint yet persistent sound of baby sharks. Rex Nebula, the accidental destroyer of history, was about to face the wrath of a very unhappy aquatic civilization. The Cathar, their patience utterly exhausted, prepared to administer a punishment befitting such historical sacrilege. Commander Krill signaled for the guards to seize Rex, their bioelectric tasers crackling ominously. "For your crimes against the Chronarium," Krill announced, his voice echoing with righteous fury, "you shall be subjected to the agony of 1,000 barnacles. May your suffering serve as a lesson to all who dare defile the sanctity of Cathar history." Just as the guards lunged forward, one of the younger chronomasters, a particularly observant fellow named Finnegan, noticed something glinting in Rex's hand. "Halt," he exclaimed, his voice surprisingly loud. "What is that?" "That object, the one you hold?" All eyes turned to Rex, who was indeed clutching a small rectangular device. He looked at it, then at the Cathar, a sheepish grin spreading across his face. "Oh, it's just my phone." The Cathar exchanged confused glances. "Phone?" Krill echoed, his bioluminescence dimming slightly. "What purpose does this phone serve?" Rex shrugged. "Well, a little bit of everything, really. I use it to call people, listen to music, watch videos, take pictures." He paused, scrolling through the device. "Oh, and apparently, rewrite ancient civilizations' histories." He held up the phone, displaying its screen. On it, a Cathar historical document was open, with several glaringly obvious edits. The image of a great Cathar warrior had been replaced, with a cartoon cat, and the ancient Cathar battle cry had been changed to the lyrics of a cheesy pop song. The Cathar were dumbfounded. But how? Krill stammered, his rigid composure finally cracking. How could such a small, insignificant device possess such power? Rex chuckled. Power? It's not about power, it's about apps. See? He tapped, the screen bringing up a menu of icons. I downloaded this historical alteration app a while back. It was supposed to be a joke, you know? For messing with my friends. He explained, with a casualness that bordered on the infuriating, that the app used a combination of image manipulation and text replacement to alter existing documents. He'd been tinkering with it out of boredom, never realizing that it was somehow connected to the Chronarium. The Cathar were utterly bewildered. The notion that their meticulously crafted historical records could be so easily manipulated by a simple human toy was beyond their comprehension. Their entire understanding of history, of reality itself, was being challenged by a device that could also play angry spacebirds. So wait, Krill said slowly, his mind struggling to process the information. You're telling us that our sacred Chronarium was hacked by a phone? Rex nodded, his grin widening. Pretty much. Though, to be fair, he added, the security on this thing was kinda lax. He tapped the phone again, pulling up a video of a Cathar admiral doing the floss dance. See? Lax. The Cathar stared at the smartphone as if it were an alien artifact, which in a way it was. They couldn't fathom that something so small, so frivolous, could possess the ability to rewrite their meticulously maintained history. The idea that their sacred Chronarium was vulnerable to something akin to a child's toy sent ripples of disbelief through their ranks. Commander Krill, his bioluminescence flickering erratically, felt a profound sense of cognitive dissonance. For centuries, the Cathar had placed unwavering faith in the Chronarium, believing it to be an infallible record of their past. Now, a human device, designed for entertainment and trivial communication, had exposed its fallibility in the most absurd way imaginable. The revelation sparked a crisis of faith within the Cathar Council. Could they truly trust the Chronarium? Was their entire understanding of their history built on a foundation of easily manipulated data? The implications were staggering, shaking the very core of their society. Debates erupted among the Cathar, scholars and leaders. Some argued for a complete shutdown of the Chronarium, fearing further contamination. Others insisted on finding a way to safeguard it against future interference, perhaps by encasing it in layers of impenetrable energy shields. A small faction, led by the inquisitive Chronomaster Finnegan, proposed a more radical approach. They suggested exploring the human methods of recording and preserving history. Perhaps, they argued, there was something to be learned from this chaotic, unfiltered approach. Could human methods be more inclusive and less strict? Rex, still holding his smartphone, shrugged. Look, guys, we humans, we ain't perfect. We screw up all the time. But we kinda, learn from it. He tapped the screen, bringing up a chaotic mess of images and videos. See this? It's everything. Good, bad, the downright embarrassing. We don't airbrush it. We stick it all out there. He showed them snippets of human history, scientific breakthroughs alongside epic fails, moments of great unity and heartbreaking division. A montage of cat videos flashed briefly. The Cathar watched, their multifaceted eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and something akin to dawning comprehension. They were used to sterile archives, not the messy, unfiltered reality of human experience. It was like showing an accountant a Jackson Pollock painting. The point is, Rex continued, we celebrate our successes, sure, but we also own our failures. We argue about them, write songs about them, make bad movies about them. It's all part of the story. He paused, considering. You guys are so busy making sure your history is perfect, you're missing the whole point. History isn't just dates and battles. It's about growing. It's about becoming better. A ripple of murmurs spread through the assembled Cathar. Chronomaster Finnegan, his tentacles twitching thoughtfully, approached Rex, So you are suggesting that historical accuracy is not the paramount objective? He asked, his voice a low rumble. Rex grinned. Nah, accuracy's cool, but understanding, that's where the real power is. He held up his phone again. This thing? It's not about rewriting history. It's about remembering it. All of it. The good, the bad, and the utterly ridiculous. The Cathar gazed at the device, no longer seeing a tool of destruction, but something far more complex. A window into the messy, imperfect, and ultimately hopeful heart of humanity. A new perspective on how history should be recorded and preserved. Captain Rex Nebula, much to his relief, was promptly released. The Cathar, while still utterly perplexed by his unique brand of diplomacy, had grudgingly accepted his explanation. Well, sort of accepted. There were still a lot of furrowed brows and muttered pronouncements about the unpredictable nature of terrestrial beings. The chronomaster, Finnegan, approached Rex as he was being escorted back to his ship, a small, slightly battered-looking vessel that seemed utterly out of place in the pristine Cathar dockyards. Captain Nebula, Finnegan rumbled, we will, be re-evaluating our historical preservation methods. Rex winked. Good on you, Finnegan. Just remember, a little chaos never hurt nobody, especially if it's got cat videos. Back on his ship, Rex watched as the Cathar worked diligently, though with a newfound air of hesitant experimentation. He imagined them debating whether to include a particularly embarrassing military blunder in the official records, or perhaps even, gasp, adding a musical interlude to the Chronarium archives. The thought made him chuckle. As Rex's ship pulled away from the Cathar homeworld, he looked back one last time. What had started as a simple navigational error had somehow turned into a full-blown cultural revolution. He leaned back in his pilot seat, a grin spreading across his face, a single smartphone. Who knew such a simple human gadget could cause such a galactic-sized upheaval? And somewhere, deep within the Cathar archives, a debate was raging, to include or not to include the complete works of William Shatner, performing as Captain Kirk, the fate of a civilization, hanging in the balance, thanks to a human and his ridiculously versatile pocket computer. News of the incident spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. It was the sort of story that just begged to be retold, embellished and thoroughly memed. The image of the stoic, militaristic Cathar being brought to their knees by a human's phone was simply too good to pass up. On countless galactic news feeds, headlines blared, "Aquatic empire overthrown by cat videos," and "Cathar history redefined, is everything we know a lie?" Pundits debated the implications for interspecies relations, philosophers pondered the nature of truth, and comedians milked the situation for every last joke. The best part? The Cathar, in their newfound spirit of historical inclusivity, had decided to document everything. Every meme, every news report, every ridiculous conspiracy theory. Their Chronarium, once a bastion of solemn historical record, now contained a complete uncensored account of the great smartphone incident. And that's how the Cathar, the galaxy's most serious and historically obsessed species, inadvertently became its biggest pop culture enthusiasts. You could now find them meticulously analyzing the nuances of Earth reality TV, debating the merits of various musical genres, and even, dare I say, attempting their own versions of viral dance crazes. Their military drills now included synchronized routines set to catchy pop tunes. Who would have thought? The Cathar went K-pop.